Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are glad you're here for another wonderful episode with Breaking Chains and Taking Names. We have our special guest here, Anja, and we're going to be talking about the importance of legacy. So, Anja, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
You know, if I was doing any better, it'd be illegal. So I guess we don't want to do any better, right?
Right.
Um, so, with that being said, the importance of legacy. A legacy is something that we want a lasting impression that's going to stick with people that carry on so that they have what we want them to have, right? So, with that being said, what kind of a legacy do you want to leave?
So I think it's important to start with what is a legacy and what does it actually mean to different people,
Let's go that
right?
route.
So if we go to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, kind of the Bible of dictionaries, if you will, they define it as something such as personal property or money that is willed to someone by a person who has died, or something that's either transmitted by or received from an ancestor or predecessor or from the past.
You know what? I would challenge that because one of
I,
the
I think
things
it means different things to different people.
I think one of the things is important with legacy is, for instance, Bill Gates. Yes, he has a lot of money, but his legacy is Microsoft. He developed, he created it, and he is Microsoft. When he dies, nobody can take that legacy, but that legacy carries on. So his kids can't say, well, I created Microsoft, but they can say, my dad created Microsoft. So I think, yes, as far as inheritance, but I think legacy also goes into, let's say, image.
Say more.
Um, also like Elon Musk, he created SpaceX. He did the first drivable self-driving car. That's something that he created as a legacy for himself. Now his kids will be able to say, "My dad did that," but he won't. They won't be able to. So Dave Ramsey, he created a legacy. Uh, he screwed up so bad playing the financial game, and he found the way to do it properly, and then he taught other people. Now he taught his kids how to do it. His kids learned second knowledge, from him. Now his daughter and his son and everything, they were growing up with him when he was going through the change, so they felt the pain and the agony of going through that change. So they have a little bit more of a legacy than what like their kids will have. But he had developed so much money that like when it goes to his kids, their kids have so much money that it's just going to get passed on, passed on. But the name Dave Ramsey, Ramsey Solutions, that was created by Dave Ramsey, nobody can take that. That was Dave Ramsey's legacy. His heart, his passion behind it. He created, he would go into churches completely free of charge. And then he also had the heart for his coaches and stuff like that to really help them out. When he retired, that kind of all went away. They went a different route, but the legacy itself of what Dave Ramsey was still stands. So his kids have the knowledge, have the information of how to do it, but the legacy of their dad carries with them, but they can't hold that legacy. They hold the information and they hold the tools, but they don't hold what their dad did. So I think legacy, yes, it's willable, but it's also what we did with our lives. Do you
Right, but
agree?
with your example, right? That Dave Ramsey's kids have the information and they have the resources. What can they build with that maybe their father couldn't?
Well, they can build their own legacy to keep going on. So they're going to build wealth. They don't need their father's wealth because they've already built wealth. So when their father wills the money to them, they can just will it onto their kids. They can just keep passing it down. So as long as their kids grow up with the same knowledge and uses the same skills, nobody in that family will ever have to do anything because they have the right tools in place. So they have a legacy that is unmatched. For one, a willable legacy, but they're also carrying the legacy of Dave Ramsey and of whoever else their mother and father are. You know, like Rachel Cruz, their kids are carrying the legacy of Dave Ramsey and of Rachel, and now they're living it. One of the old shows back in the day, I can't even remember the name of the show, but the part he always would say is, let's do something legendary. He would always pause and make that even longer. And I love that because our legacy is legendary and we're carrying it on and on and on. You know, our mothers and fathers went through the Depression, or our grandmothers and fathers went through depression. You know, we learned some pretty good skills from that. Some things that they had gone through and some skills they had developed to help us so that we don't do the same thing. Each generation that goes on, we go to a whole new scale. We start spanning in a whole different route. So let me ask you, the legacy you are passing to your kids, one, a willable legacy, which is very good because you've learned some good skills. But what legacies have you created in your life?
So I think if you look at it through the lens of what would my obituary say, or what would I want it to say, and using that as kind of a lens of who am I today versus what do I want to change so that those things could be said about me, right? So what could be said, right? My husband and I, are we hard workers? Are we faithful stewards of the resources that God has, enabled us to manage? Are we good parents, right? Do we love our kids, our grandkids? Do we what are our priorities, right? If you look at someone's calendar and their online banking statement, you can tell what someone's priorities are. And is that more time spent at the office? Is it, are we missing little league games and canceling vacations because something came up? Or are we being intentional? And I think that's the key, is looking up from our day-to-day long enough to build that intentionality piece into our lives so that at the end we are pleased with what we've been able to accomplish and that we've been able to pass that down to the generations, whether that is right with financial resources or beliefs and habits and behaviors and everything else that comes with it.
You know, I love the way you put it. Looking at in through that lens, I love that analogy. That was very good.
So I challenge all your listeners to write your own obituary, the way it stands today, and what would you change?
You know, the interesting thing is, one of the things the obituaries usually have a good standing on is other people write it in the way that they think you were. Sometimes when we live, we're like, you know what, I did this, I'm really good at this. And then when somebody writes, something about us, they're like, well, actually, this. And I'm like, oh, you
Mhm.
know, I have one of my best friends. I love him to death. And he tells me all the time, he's like, you're an inspiration. I was like, I am? Because when you're tried through the fire and you hold strong, he's like, you pull through like you wouldn't believe. He's like, that helps me sometimes to pull through. So when you hear feedback from other people, that helps you write a better way. So when you're listening to other people's feedback, if something is not what you quite want, I don't like it that way. What are you going to do to change so that it's rewritten the way you want it?
Right. And just like with our finances, we have the ability to change. Mm-hmm. Right? A couple degrees of shift can mean that we end up in a completely different destination, for better or for worse. Mm-hmm. Right? And so the earlier we can start, the easier that journey is going to be, because we have more time to course correct.
Yeah. Yep. And I love that, because the analogy of a tire, we're in the center, and one spoke goes a long way. Well, if you change the direction of that spoke, it goes to a whole different place. Quite a bit difference from a small angle is a huge difference in the end.
Right. I like to talk to my clients about, right, where we are right now. I'm in California. And if I want to go to Florida, if I set my GPS and I keep my head down and I just keep looking at my feet to make sure I'm not tripping over rocks or logs, I may end up in North Carolina if I'm not careful. Nothing wrong with North Carolina, but it wasn't where I wanted to go. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we need to raise our head, we need to pause and figure out, am I still heading in the direction that I want to be going?
Yep. Yeah, and it's playing the devil's advocate. California, you want to go this way to go to Florida. You make a small change and you go into North Carolina. But then over here you realize, wait, I'm going in the wrong direction. You make a course correction, but you got changed around in your direction. So when you made the course correction, now you go to New York instead of down in Florida.
Yep.
So it's very interesting. Just a small angle can change the direction a huge amount.
Right.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So with that being said, small changes to make a big impact. When we're helping clients out to make those small changes, what's one of your favorite books that you like to refer people to as far as making changes to make the big impact?
Let's see, I have a whole bookshelf ahead of me here. I really like Boundaries, Dr. Henry Cloud, because I feel like sometimes we are pulled in directions and we don't know that we can change that we have the ability to make our own choices, make decisions that are best for us and our family, especially right when it comes to extended family, having expectations about our behavior that don't align with who we are, who we want to be. Sometimes those learning what a boundary actually is, that it's something that we put on ourselves versus something that we're trying to assign to someone else, that we have control over that part of our lives. And it can be the first time that somebody's ever been told that.
I love that. I know for me, one of my favorite books is The Atomic Habits.
Mm.
Because it teaches you, you're making one small change across the board in a few different areas to make a big impact. There was another coach that we used to have here, and he would always talk about the ice water. But the first story is my favorite, the one about the Olympic coach. Team never won the Olympics. They just couldn't get any medals. He made one small change across the board, and then all of a sudden that very first year they won a lot of golds and silvers, and that was remarkable. So that's one of my favorite books.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're working with some of your clients, do you ever have to just shake them around a little bit? Come on, man, come into reality. And when you shake them just enough to change their direction.
So if by shaking you mean ask really deep questions, yes, right? It's really hard to shake people through Zoom. I am always giving the client a lot of grace. Sometimes they don't even have that available to themselves. It may be the first time that someone has said, you deserve grace. The shame and blame and guilt that you are carrying is no longer yours to carry. Like, it's time to set that down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things that the longer you are a coach, if you're paying attention, the more you realize what the right amount of pressure is for that situation. Mm-hmm. Something that we might have done 3, 4, 5 years ago as a coach is not how we would handle things today. And I think that that's the point, right? We are growing. We are learning. It's a practice for us as well, that we get to transform who we are every day to better serve the people who are entrusting us with just a little bit of guidance and wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of my favorite coaches, and I'm not going to say his name, but once I say the story, you're probably going to know who it is. But he has the boldness to go up to somebody. Now, I have a lot of boldness. I'm a very bold coach. I am not this bold. But he'll walk up to you. I know why you're going to kill yourself. Why? Because you got red shoes on. The only thing he says that for is to redirect your thinking. The guy looks down at his shoes and he laughs. It wasn't that he actually had, he did have red shoes on, but it wasn't that he had the red shoes on. It's you're changing where his direction is going. His direction is negative and all this kind of stuff. He looks down and is like, how can you be sad when you have red shoes on? And you just start cracking up. And then, right after he looks down and he has a little smile on his face, he says, now you're ready to be coached by me, aren't you? Yes? Okay, let's go. I don't have that kind of boldness yet, but I've always liked that, And I always count myself as a very bold coach, just not that bold.
I've never heard that story before.
Oh, you have heard it?
No.
Oh, you haven't? Well, maybe off air I'll tell you who it is, but I can't do that, on air. But
okay.
It's a very, like, a lot of times when I say that story, a lot of people know who it is, and it's a very interesting one. He's a coach that does one thing I don't really agree with, and one time I asked him, I says, why do you do that? And he explained it to me, and I was like, okay, I can see it. I can't do that. But he swears a lot, and I can't use that kind of language. But a lot of times people are stuck in their ways, and he'll say like the F word, and it'll make him stop. You're like, huh? So he'll shake him up a lot real quick, and I can't do that. That's not me. Now, yes, he can get somebody shaken out a lot quicker than I can because he'll use the F word. I won't. And sometimes I have to say, hey, change those words. Oh, yeah, that's right. Hey, watch that mouth. You know, um, but, he definitely has ways that I can't do or I choose not to do.
Hmm.
So, with giving that tool, did you figure out who it is yet?
No.
Okay. Um, but we all are ourselves, right? And his legacy is not my legacy. So
Hmm.
what he does to win clients and to shake clients and get clients to change their direction, I can't do. If I try to be like you, I'm not going to be there.
Hmm.
I'm going to fail. I don't know what it took for you to get into your shoes. I don't know what it takes to stay where you're at. Grass is always green on the other side. So if I try to take what you have, I'm going to lose it because I have no clue what it takes to keep it. So like I may dream about being like this other guy, I wouldn't want to be him.
Yeah. Well, I think that as coaches, we should encourage our clients to figure out what they actually want in life, right? So kind of going back to that obituary story, but in the present day, can we build the picture like the top of a puzzle, 1,000-piece puzzle box? First thing we do when we pick up a puzzle is we look at the picture on the front, right? And so I want my clients to build that picture before we start messing with the 1,000 pieces,
Mm-hmm.
because we can get so tied up in the details that we never actually see the big picture. So
Yeah.
stop, figure out, what does that picture look like? Big, bold, beautiful color, all the details. What does it look like? When we see that, then we can start to get to work, right? What's the next thing we would do? We take and we sort out the ones that have the one straight edge on the side, because those are more easily identified.
Mm-hmm.
Take all of those, set them aside, and then we build the frame of the puzzle. So we have that big picture of what we know, what we're building towards. We know where we want to end up. We start to build the framework. Only after the framework is set up can we start filling in the center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I usually start like with corners, and I look at the picture to see which corner goes to which side, which corner,
Mm-hmm.
and then I try to build the frame based on those corners. But I always start with my corners, and then I start with my edges,
Mm-hmm.
and then I try to start with like if there's a certain color that's different, I try to find those pieces. I try to
Mm-hmm.
find the unique parts of that puzzle.
Right, and that's what makes you a unique coach from from me, as example.
Mm-hmm.
Right, my method is a little bit different than yours.
Yep.
Neither one is right or wrong, right?
Correct.
But we take that method and we take our clients through that, and it makes sense.
Yeah. And the one thing I love is as we're building that picture, when we look for those unique things in the picture, that's the uniqueness of us. Every single person is unique. What makes you different from me? What makes you different from Adam, from Steve, from Bob? What makes you different? That's probably what's going to be put in your obituary is your
Mm-hmm.
uniqueness, your legacy.
Yeah.
So what makes you stand out? And it was funny because when I was in college, and I was in business college and trying to figure out how to run a business and how to do all that kind of stuff. And they were like, okay, well, you want to do a business. But if you do a business like everybody else, what makes you different that people are going to pay you versus the other people? You know? And Wendy's has a very nice little trick that they do. You know why Wendy's is so successful?
Mm-mm.
McDonald's does a lot of research of where to put their places. Wendy's always puts a place real close to McDonald's.
Mm.
They've done the research. Why do we have to worry? Let's just build near there. However, because they do that philosophy, they are very successful. They're not as successful as McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
Because McDonald's is a unique one. You're the copycat. Now, yes, they have better food, whatever. And so they attract different people, but you're running off of somebody else's research.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the whole thing of, it's great to be unique, to find your niche, because that's what's going to hold you separate from everybody else. If you're the same, if you're trying to build close to just because they've done the research, you don't know what they've done the research to. Now, McDonald's used to be known for the dollar menu, the cheap burgers, right?
Yeah.
Wendy's could not compete to the price because McDonald's would buy in bulk. They would sell more so they can offer it cheaper. So they had the demographics of cheaper people, or not cheaper people, but people that wanted cheaper food. And Wendy's could not tap into that, but that's what the research was. But they're trying to build close to McDonald's, even though McDonald's did a different research than what they were trying to do. That's why you have to build your own legacy.
Mm-hmm.
What sets you apart from everybody else? What makes you different? So my question is, what's one client you had that you had a struggle helping them to pull out from inside of them who they really are? What makes them unique?
Hmm. Oh wow. Now I'm gonna have to go back in the history banks. But, we all have our favorite clients, right? So I have a lady who is in her mid-60s. She actually lives not too far away from me. And she's an absolute joy. She had inherited, speaking of legacy, her parents are both passed away. She had inherited money from the parents, from an aunt. And she still felt like she couldn't spend any money. So a lot of clients that we're working with, we're trying to get them to tone down their spending because it doesn't align with where they want to go. Every now and then we get a client who has the money, right? They could be living at a higher standard of living of what they currently are, but everything is done in fear. So we have perceived scarcity where it doesn't really exist, right? So it may be the idea of, well, if I lose this apartment, I'll never be able to afford rent somewhere else because I'm in a low cost area or I'm in a rent controlled area. And you have, other situations where we are holding on to things from the past that may no longer serve us, right? And so just sort of figuring out where do those stories come from? And what is it that I can let go of versus what do I need to hold on to? Being, again, intentional in figuring out where did that come from, right? Whose shame is this? whose story is this? Is it really mine to carry?
Mm-hmm. And you know, I love how you brought up how we normally work at things. We always try to decrease spending and increase income to give us that gap so that we can do more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But occasionally, we have those clients that are already here and we need to kind of like help them to move out. I know this one coach that they work with clients that love to hold money in their mattress because they're afraid of the banks.
Mm-hmm.
And they are constantly trying to tell them, oh, it's okay, you can trust the banks. And they actually trust this person because they're in the same field and they're very successful.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's pushing them past, actually, most times it's pushing them past where they think to getting them out of their comfort zone. A lot of people love to stay in their comfort zone. By the way, what is the definition of doing the same thing you did yesterday and expecting a different result?
I believe that would be insanity.
And most of us are insane. Anybody to grow, we need to come out of that boat. Well, with a coach, not only do we get you out of the boat, but we push you a little bit more. That's why it's always key to be with a coach, because they take an outside perspective and they see a different vantage point, and they're able to get you and push you to your limit. Don't push you over, but push you to your limit. Now, when we are doing it, we go out a little bit, but we don't really go to our limit because we're scared. And a coach can see that and will actually push us to our limit, and they've got us. So we trust them. Like when we were kids, I don't know if you ever did this. Do I trust you? Okay, I'm going to fall back and you better catch me. You know, that little game to see if you can actually trust the person.
Mm-hmm. Trustful.
Yep. Now, we do that nowadays with people we trust to help us improve. We all need improvement. We all want to grow. We don't want to stay in the same place. Mm-hmm. And the scary part is your kids. Your kids are always going to be better than you. And their kids are always going to be better than them. And that's a good thing. But it's scary. Now, the one thing that I find...
We hope they're going to be better, right? There's no guarantee.
Right. They should be better. Because there is different technology which helps them improve better, or, no, not better, helps them improve faster. Like when I went through school, I did Algebra 1 in 9th grade, Geometry in 10th, Algebra 2 in 11th, and Trigonometry in 12th. Now they're doing Algebra in like 6th grade. I'm like, what? Algebra wasn't even until high school, and now you're doing it in elementary?
Our district does it in 8th grade. Yes.
But the thing is like, math was always my strong suit, you know. Now, I'm real good with fast math, and they don't even do that no more. You know, they do a whole different other kind of math.
Common Core math.
Yeah. So, you know, and now it's just like rounding off. It's like, what? No, I need to have the exact figure.
Right.
You know, but, you know, it's faster that way. It's just not accurate. But that's a whole different scale.
So you brought up the topic of kids, right? What do they take away, either while we're still living or after we've passed? And it really comes down to, they don't inherit our intentions. They inherit our patterns.
Yes.
Right? Yep. Our behaviors, our habits, our our intentional movements towards things that are important. When Rachel Cruz always says more is caught than taught. Are they going to remember what we said, or are they watching and they're going to copy our behavior?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you know, one of the friends I had, his name was the same as his father's name.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a junior and senior. So a lot of times, mistaken identity. He can go to the bank and pull money out of his dad's account because he had the same exact name. And his license had the same name, just different pictures. So I mean, it's still okay. You're that person. Okay, here you go.
Mm-hmm.
But on the curse side, he would also get his bills and different things like that too. You know, because again, mistaken identity. So, you know, you're always going to be able to pull things that they do. You may not, just like we were talking earlier, um, I want what you have, but I don't know what it took for you to get there. We know the actions that our parents have done. We don't know the reasoning behind the actions unless they explained it to us, unless they taught us. You know, I know with Dave Ramsey and Rachel Cruz, Dave Ramsey taught Rachel the idea and the philosophy behind so that she wasn't just mimicking in the actions, but she was also understanding why he did what he did so that she can do what she did. That understanding is key to carrying on a good mirror image.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our kids were 4 and 8 when we started this financial journey. And so they grew up with the principles of what we were working towards. And we were communicating that in ways, right, in our words and our actions, bringing them into age-appropriate conversations so that by the time, I mean, my kids know how to create their own budgets, right? They know how to manage their money. They're both working. Now they're 18 and 22. Right? They're going to school. The older one went, the younger one is going to go to community college because it's right here. They don't have a desire to keep up with the Joneses and move across the country just so that they can say they went to University of, right, fill in the blank. That is all part of the legacy that we are creating. That these are the values. This is how we value education, and these are the parameters around those things. Having conversations early and often about what expectations are, what we're willing to do, and what we're not willing to do. Mm-hmm. So there's no surprises.
You know, it's funny you say that. When I was just starting out with the financial realm, I was at church, and I would say, you don't want to be like the Joneses. Or in one of my ads, it was, you don't want to be like the Joneses. We actually have members at the church that were Joneses. Mm. Now, the Joneses were they were wealthy people. They were not like the stereotype Joneses were. So when they seen my ad, they came up to me and says, "We're not broke." It's like, whoever said you were? Of course you're not broke. You know, your ad, don't be like the Joneses. It's like, oh, you know. So
it doesn't actually mean though that you're trying to keep up with those that are beyond you, right? Which they I guess they did qualify for. They were doing well. So if we're trying to keep up with them with an image, that's when we start to get in trouble. Are we doing things for right, the right reason, or are we worried about someone's image or impression of us versus who we really are authentically?
Right. Yep. So, I do have to say, this has been interesting. We've talked a whole lot of scales of legacy, ups and downs, overs and rights, ups in every aspect of a legacy. When you came here today, what was your importance of legacy?
I know how hard my husband and I have worked over the last 14 years, specifically since we really got on the same page. There is generational addiction. There was homelessness. There is, broken families. There are a lot of things that have happened in the last couple of generations in our families, and we got to decide what we want our life to look like, what we want our children and our grandchildren's. And so just because, right, part of our obituary is already written. Those pages don't come back. But the pen is still in your hand for everything after today. So figuring out what was important to us. Education was a big piece. Being completely debt-free, 100% debt-free. We don't owe anyone anything. We don't have a mortgage. When we buy things, we pay cash for them. We don't have credit. We won't use credit in the future. Those are just things that we decided, and we stand on those, right? And does that take away some options? Yes, it does. And is that okay? That's okay with us. Because we made those decisions ahead of time. We stand on those principles, and everyone around us knows that.
Yeah,
right? So the kids will never have debt. They will walk out of college with money still left in their 529s. It will be available if they want to go back for a master's, if they want to pass that money down to their children, or roll it into a Roth IRA, or hand it to their niece or nephew if they need some extra help with education. So just being, again, intentional in building the foundation of this is what it's going to look like going forward.
Yeah, I love that because, when you have no debt, 3 months later you have no credit score. So you can't rent an apartment. Now, you might be able to buy the whole entire complex, but you can't rent an apartment. But that's okay because you can buy a house, right? You can actually buy value. Instead of paying somebody else for their value, you can have value yourself. Net worth is so much more to have than credit score. We were talking about Bill Gates earlier. Bill Gates has no credit score. Do you think when he walks into a bank, the bank is saying, well, what is your credit score? No. He's a wealthy man. They know his net worth. They don't care about a credit score.
So I reframe that with my clients. I don't call it net worth anymore. I call it net wealth.
I like that.
Because your wealth does not determine your worth.
Yep. I like that. I'm going to have to use that.
Even talking about renting or, a credit score for different, there are people who are coming to realize that maybe we should build a system for those who decide that credit is not for them. Right? There are different systems now in place that maybe didn't exist 5 or 10 years ago, where we can use, right, our cell phone bill, a letter from our previous landlord, or those type of credit references that are not determined by the 3 credit reporting agencies.
I like that. And that's key because that's key. I love, instead of worth, wealth. Because your net worth, all the items you have minus your debt equals your worth. But is that really true? Because, like you
No.
said, I like wealth better because your worth, your skills are also part of your worth. Your talents, your actions, what you do, how you act, how you respond, all that creates your worth. Your worth is so much more valuable than what we give credit for. So I love that. Net wealth, not worth.
Right.
I love that. I'm going to steal that from you.
You go for it.
Hey, at least I'm honest, right?
Yeah. I give freely.
Yeah, it's funny. I give all the time. And it was funny. I was out today doing some work and stuff like that. And I took a case, pop with me. And after my first journey and I was going on my second, I realized I had a lot of extra. So I'm like giving it to this person. You want one? You want one? You want one? They're like, why are you giving away? And the one's like, I'll buy it. It's like, no, no, no. Just take it. I have extra. Have one. And it's funny because a lot of people don't do that no more.
Mm.
They're like, and people are actually scared when you give things away. They're like, what's your intention? Nothing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Freely, you know?
That is the most fun piece of not having debt.
Mm-hmm.
Is right. You call it outrageous generosity. You get to decide what that looks like.
Yeah. Yep. And
If someone comes and they're like, can I borrow a couple $100? I'm like, no, you can't borrow it, but I have it to give.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to say that, to be able to support causes and people and organizations
Yep.
that you value.
Yeah, I don't like borrowing because that creates enemies.
Mm.
But the one thing I found strange and odd, I like to go to gas stations. And I'll go to a gas station not close to me because I don't want people to recognize me. And I'll take a stack of 50s or 100s and I'll walk up to people and just give money away to help out with their gas or whatever. I can't tell you how many people that refuse free money. No, 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 I don't want no money. What? Free money and you're saying no?
Oh, I'd love to have that on video.
It's hilarious, but like I like to do it because I like to do it in a place where it's completely different. And because I don't want people to recognize me, right? Because I'm trying to be genuine, right? I'm not trying to look for any rewards or anything like that. So I don't want somebody to recognize me and then later on be like coming up to me and give me something extra because I did this. I'm not doing that for that, right? I do it because my heart is genuine, right? I
Mm-hmm.
love to I'm inspired when people get blessed, when people get that aha moment, when people get that, oh, I've got it now, when people are able to do what they need to do, then I'm happy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do crazy stuff like that. It was funny because Dave Ramsey mentions about going to like an all glass building and ordering a cup of coffee and putting $100 bill under there and going outside and watching.
The Waffle
Well,
House.
when I was in Nashville, that place is called Waffle House.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that all the time. I would go in there, order something, and then when nobody's looking, put it under and just go out there and just watch. Because it's hilarious. But I also did it like at a steakhouse. I took my brother to it for his birthday, and I gave the waitress $100 tip. And she was like, I think you gave me way too. No, 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 no. That's for you. And my brother's like, how much did you? Don't worry about it. It's taken care of. You know? But I love doing things like that. I love people's expression. I love when people are like, yes, thank you. They don't even have to say thank you to me, but they always say thank you. Not necessarily to me, but they always look up and, thank you, I needed this. I didn't know if they needed it or not, but I know everybody needs, a little help every now and then. That's one of the greatest joys I have. Much more than buying something for myself,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. You know. Um, and unfortunately, that won't be a legacy because I don't tell too many people. You know, a lot of the blessings that I do, I like to do in secret. What you do in secret, you're rewarded in secret. What you do in public, the public rewards you. So I like to do a lot of my generosity in private. You know, those spontaneous moments that nobody knows, but it's thanked. You know, those are what I like. So that won't be in my obituary. Now,
Well, only because the folks that you are blessing won't be writing it,
mm-hmm.
right? It is a legacy that just doesn't have to follow your family tree.
Yep. Yep. Very true. So we're getting close to the end. Are there any final words that you have to say about legacy before we start getting into the real good stuff?
Oh, I'm intrigued now. What's the real good stuff? So just a couple thoughts that legacy goes both directions, right? We inherit it and we pass it down. So if we need to understand where we have come from in order to process where we want to go. Sit down, create that big, bold, beautiful picture that you want life to be. Be intentional. You get to design what comes next. The past is the past. We cannot undo it, for better or for worse. We are where we are right now. But the future is still in your hands, right? As much as can be controlled. Back on the subject of debt, every dollar owed to the past steals attention from the legacy that we're building. So freeing ourselves of that burden of debt allows you to be open to possibilities that you thought were not even an option. And maybe you're sitting here thinking, you know, goals, I don't even know what that's supposed to look like. Like I was told to stop dreaming a long time ago. Keep your feet on the ground, right? Don't dream. There's no point in it. That's not who we are. That's not what we do. And so it may take some time to kind of dig down into what you want that to look like. Start small. If you're married, if you have a partner, work with that person to figure out, what do we want to build? Give yourself permission to dream.
I love that. Dream big. Because you never know where it's going to take you.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Well, I've got one announcement to make, and then I want to talk about you a little bit.
Okay.
So, first of all, for all those out there that's listening and stuff like that, we have a new event that we're doing. On Fridays, we're going to be doing a treasure hunt. If you're familiar with Alignable, I'm a leader in one of the groups, and I'm teaming up with another leader, and we're going to start a treasure hunt smart connect. But we can't call it a smart connect because it's not going to be in Alignable. It's going to be done from Alignable, but it's not in Alignable. So we're going to call it a treasure hunt connection. And it starts next Friday is our first time, but this Friday is going to be the introduction for that. So make sure you're there this Friday at 3 o'clock, and you can go to the calendar, and the link is in the description below to see all the details for it. Now, I want to dig into you, Anja. I know we have your website posted in the link below, so they can click on it, they can find out all the things about you, and find out all the good stuff you're doing, and even hire you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you have to offer? What makes you special that people want to hire you?
So I think the fact that I've been there, right? I'm a wife, I am a mom, I'm a grandmother. I have enough years under my belt where I've seen a lot, I've done a lot, I have regrets, and I have some really clear successes. So when I come into a situation, I'm coming at it through curiosity. I always want to give people the opportunity to speak their truth, and without without the shame and the blame that comes with a lot of our financial decisions, things that we've done in the past, decisions that we've made that we don't necessarily right, if we might not repeat those again. And so coming with it from a pure heart of, tell me who you are, tell me what's important to you. There's no judgment in those calls. There's never a, why would you do that? Right? Why did you? Those type of questions don't come into our conversation. There's no room for that. So figuring out, where did we come from? Where are we now? Where do we want to go? And it, coming back to our personal story, my husband and I started Financial Peace University in January of 2012. So over 14 and a half years ago. It took us about 10 years to get out of debt. And during that point in time, my husband was sleeping in the back of the car in between shifts. He was coming home just to pick up some food that he could microwave at work, to shower, get some clean bedding, right? And then he'd rush right back to work. He was on a mission. There was nothing that was going to stop him. And the reason that he was able to do that is because the two of us were in line. We were aligned in what we wanted, and we knew that it was going to take hard work to get there. So I honestly believe if you are in a partnership, that two people together, locked arm in arm, there is nothing you cannot do together. Things are different for the singles out there, and I love my single clients. Probably 2/3 of my clients actually are singles. And I love working with that demographic as well, right? But focusing on our personal story, I was driving for two different driving services, and then chauffeuring people privately as well. I was, we were doing the COVID thing at home with kids doing school while we were juggling other things. There was a lot of life that happened over the period of those 10 years, from January of 2012 to December of 21, when we paid our final mortgage bill, walked into the bank and made that final payment, right? There was no confetti falling from the ceiling. There was nobody congratulating us. There was no balloons. There was no fanfare. It was mildly disappointing. And then my husband and I looked at each other and said, let's go out for brunch. Right? Because we didn't do it for the fanfare, for the balloons, for the confetti. So doing things because we knew it was the right decision, and being willing to sacrifice along the way. Right? I was doing what I could do. He was doing what he could do. He has different talents, skills, and opportunities than I have, and that doesn't make one or the other more or less valuable. You're doing what you can, and you're working in partnership with someone. Everything is, if you're aligned in the cause, then it's amazing what you can do.
Mm-hmm. And I know you did a debt-free scream, but before that, did you do a debt-free scream from your porch?
So after brunch, my husband came home, and it was December. Mind you, we live in California, but it was December 10th. He walked into the backyard, took off his socks and shoes, and stood in the grass and said, "It does feel different."
You know, the funny thing with that is, I did that as well. I took my shoes and socks off, stood in my property, and I went and was like, it's painful. And it's funny because Dave Ramsey was like, "What do you mean it's painful?" Now, to be honest with you, I lived out in the country, so I lived off of a dirt road. I had a lot of acreage, but it was a dirt road, so I had rocky grass.
Mm.
So when you go out there, a city boy going out in country grass, it's painful. Now, when you're in the area, you're used to it, and it's not that bad. So I was like, "It's painful," and Dave was like, "Only you, only you." But that is remarkable, and that's one story that I have to say is unique. And you definitely pulled through a lot, and I love that you and your husband did it together. You guys caught the vision, you got united in the vision, and you ran for it, and then you accomplished it.
Mm-hmm.
So for those out there, this is one that has been through the fire, been tested, and accomplished the fire, destroyed it. So if you want to reach out to her, make sure you do. Her link's in the description below, and she is definitely ready to talk with you. Anya, do you have any final words today?
Uh, this has been fun. It's been challenging for me. I'm usually one who's like happy to be in the background, and so thank you for challenging me with this opportunity, and it's been a lot of fun.
We'll see you all next time.